Is this Ms. Vogel again? Yes. Ms. Hanson?
I move that we approve the Student Health Advisory Committee members as listed. Sorry to preempt you.
Okay, a motion's been made. Do we have a second? Ms.
I'll
Villalpando
second.
with the second. You can proceed.
I'm just presenting the names, and
Okay.
any questions, I'm available.
All right, any questions? Ms. Halsey?
Yeah, I have a question about the name that was taken off the list. I don't understand why that person is not eligible.
It cannot be a parent employed by the district.
That's not the way I read it, though. I read it to say that the majority has to be parents of currently enrolled students.
We got clarification from Mr. Barney
Right, but
Fudge.
you could still qualify, couldn't you?
You just wouldn't affect the majority determination.
Right.
That's how I read it as well.
Right, you could.
Okay, so I think that we should consider that person. And then a couple of other questions. Where is it? Brittany Cross, isn't she a district employee?
Yes, she is. That
Okay.
is true.
So I think that if we approve it as is, that we are not going to be compliant with the majority of parents enrolled, of students currently enrolled. Because by my count, there are 12 parents on this list.
I have 15.
I have 15, if you count Hannah Dre as a student.
If you count, well, I didn't even count her.
Well,
If you count
she's not a
Mr.
parent,
De
though.
Leon,
It
then
can be student or parent.
But
Parent.
Mr. DeLeon can't count toward the majority, is what we just established.
Yes, I don't have him in my count.
So I only have 12 parents, which means that at most, we can appoint 23 people.
I have 15.
The parents that I have listed are Lindsay Martinez,
Let me,
You can number them as we go?
yeah.
All right.
Lindsay Martinez, Raquel Cervantes Nunez, Gabrielle Moore, Amanda Zahner-Thelman, Mary Salmi, Eduardo Rios, Courtney Gribben, Michelle Villapondo, Matthew Phelps, Kimberly Adams, Tim Bauerkemper, and Michael Pigg.
Yes, I think the only other two I was considering were the grandparents.
Right.
I am happy to have grandparents, but they, I think, need to be custodial grandparents if we're going to be exactly in compliance with
That
the
is true.
bylaws. And my understanding is that that's not the case here.
That's
so.
true.
So what was your number? 23?
I think we can't, if we're going to be in compliance with the bylaws, we cannot appoint more than 23 people because a majority of the board have to be, or a majority of the council must be parents of currently enrolled students.
Yes.
Could we, if Trustee Hanson is willing, can we appoint every parent who has applied on the listing? And that way we know how many parents we have on the committee. Not to say that that is going to be the final appointment, but that we approve all the parents and we at least know in that aspect it is in compliance. And then
I would like for us, since they have a meeting this week, to approve everybody on this list, including Mr. De Leon, if we can add him back in legally, and then assign Ms. Vogel to go out and try to recruit more parents for us.
So we
So at least they could start their meeting this week, because otherwise, I don't see us, unless we approve here, being able to start the meeting.
I wouldn't want to approve a committee that would start out of compliance and then charge staff to fix an out of compliant committee.
I think she can bring us some additional names, but to say, no, you can't meet in September when they need to get started, I think we should have brought these concerns up earlier so that she could do some more recruiting. If that was a concern of this board. I included grandparents. I felt like grandparents, even if they're not custodial grandparents, serve as...
State law allows grandparents to take, if they live in our district and they daycare, they are allowed to serve as parents and enroll, so.
And there are 3 of them, right?
Right, so that brings it up to 15.
Well, we don't know if any of those
Still
grandparents are custodial.
But he's saying that they don't have to be.
Well, according to the statute,
It does.
I agree with Ms. Halsey's reading that they don't have to be on the committee for sure, but they do have to be non-employed parents of current students. A majority of the committee has to be comprised of that.
Correct.
I don't know if
Well, I just think
It's the majority to fine. I guess it's at more than 50, like normal.
I think to go ahead and approve this committee and ask Ms. Vogel to do some recruitment and bring back additional parent names only so that they can go ahead and start their business. And maybe the parents on the committee can actually help assist in that process and bring back those additional names for us to approve in October would be sufficient for me. I mean, I want to help this committee get started. They have a lot of work. They have only 4 meetings in the year, and they have a lot of work to do.
Mr. Get a second to
Oh, I'm sorry.
I also want the committee to get started as soon as possible, but I think that the board is responsible for making the appointments, and to delegate it to staff seems
We're making
not
appointments.
best practices, and I'm not sure why we can't implement another process, perhaps something like the way the city council appoints commissions, where each board member nominates X number of people from the list of people who've applied, and we could go around until we have whatever number we've decided on. If we decide that we want it to be 23, or if we want it to be 29, or I don't think that we are beholden to any other process, and so we have the freedom and the liberty and actually the responsibility to create a process here.
Just as an individual member, I would never want to appoint a committee that's, the moment of their appointment is out of compliance and incongruent to what our policy or statutes establish the committee. So whenever we vote on Trustee Hansen's original motion, the motion that we're debating, I'm going to be voting against it just because I can't vote for a committee that's already out of compliance.
Does someone want to offer an amendment?
I asked and was told
You would,
if we could amend it to appoint the parents, and that was the
Just have the
proposed
parents?
as for now.
it
Not
seems that the most reasonable thing from my vantage point would be to not appoint those non-parents who submitted on the second round at this time until there would be more parents on the committee. That is conveniently 8 off the list, it looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 off the list, which would take the total to 23, 12 of whom are parents, and would bring us into compliance. And that seems like a reasonable way to differentiate between choosing, people among the committee by who submitted originally, and that second wave makes some sense to me. Does anybody else think that would be a reasonable answer to our
So you would
concern?
take off those that are just community members?
I would not appoint them at this time.
Right.
Those
second round,
non-parents who submitted after the original deadline.
So the 18 down below is what we're talking about?
I'm sorry, unfortunately, nothing against those folks, but just so that we can get the committee moving, that would be Deborah Carter, Alicia Jordan, Claudia Gaspani, Michelle Villalpando, Dr. Billy Stokes, Michelle Rodriguez, Kathy Martinez-Prater, and Karen Munoz. I know a few of those, but...
Michelle Villalbando's a parent.
Yeah.
Oh, I read
Michelle
it wrong.
Villalbando's
I'm
a
sorry, I
parent.
can't read my own handwriting, so all but that.
And the intent would be to take it up again in October and appoint the remainder, or?
We just can't we can't take additional applications of non-parents at this time because more than 50% of this committee has to be parents. So you have to cut, if you're going to appoint the committee, you have to cut somewhere, and it seems the submitting by the original deadline is a reasonable place to differentiate all of these probably, similarly qualified applicants.
I could approve that amendment.
I would support that too.
I still maintain that the board needs to appoint individual members, and that the process, if that's the process, then the process is still anybody who wants to serve on this commission can serve on the council, and I'd feel uncomfortable doing that.
Would Trustee McLaughlin, after I do a little bit of advocating here, support amending that motion to include Dr. Billy Stokes and Kathy Martinez-Prater? Dr. Stokes, full disclosure, I do work with him. He's not my supervisor. He's just a colleague. But they did some things when he worked in Louisiana when it comes to school health centers and just opening up clinics within schools. And I think there's some things and some values and some experience that he would bring to the table. And then having Mrs. Martinez-Prather, who is the director of the Texas School Safety Center. I mean, I think those are both highly qualified candidates who would bring something to the School Health Advisory Council.
Ms. Vogel, nothing says that if these people are not appointed, that they can't show up to the meeting and provide their expertise, correct?
Absolutely.
They just can't be voting members
Can't be a voting member on an item that is voted on.
at this time,
At this time.
if they vote on that.
I mean, if there's a way that we could appoint additional folks and still be in compliance, I would be for it. But we have to differentiate somehow, and if we add just those two, the committee will balloon to, 25? It's 23 now with 12 parents, so it would become 25 with 12 parents, and we would not be at our, we would not have more than 50% parents on the committee. So I think we could do that at the next meeting if there's any other parents that supports, or if any of the current non-parents or district employees, don't, want to accept the position or nomination. And there's nothing to say this is the only time we can appoint people. We just have to appoint people now so the committee can meet, right?
Ms. Vogel, what is on this month's agenda for the School Health Advisory Council? Are they getting into like meat and potatoes already at their first meeting? That
Yes.
all these people are going to be
We'll
appointed?
be looking at our bylaws. We want some minor revisions into the bylaws. Then we'll be looking at, the co-chair and the chair, who would be elected from there. It will be a parent that's the co-chair.
Are we looking at goals also?
We'll review those goals that we established in April to see if they still want to keep those goals or add or addendum.
So I'm still counting 12, though, on the first list. My
Sorry?
12 people who are
parents?
not parents in the first list.
There's 11 because Mr. De Leon withdrew or was
Oh, we
originally
decided that
on.
he was still eligible, though.
But did you say you had a conversation with Mr. De Leon?
I did, but I can also tell him that he's back on.
Right.
Right.
He didn't withdraw. He was deemed ineligible, but
Yes.
he's not, and so
Okay.
we have then 12-12.
So
We can't do that either.
Right.
So it seems that we could add Mr. De Leon too, but I mean, that seems
why
like a
is it
reason.
that
I'm ready to take him off if he's actually eligible.
Why is it I'm counting 13? How are you counting?
Are you counting him as a
12
parent?
non-parents on the first
Oh,
list.
I'm counting 13 parents, so is
Right.
that not where we want to be?
And we have 12 parents.
We have 12 non-employed parents.
Do the parents,
addition of the
the staff, they don't count
Correct.
for the percentage?
No, they cannot count in the majority ratio that is required for parents.
Well, I counted Mr. De Leon and it's 13, so.
With Mr. De Leon, it would be 13 parents, but he would not
Doesn't count as a
count as our
parent.
majority, towards our majority of parents, non-employed parents, because he's employed by the district. In an effort to try to move this
Well, then
forward.
why don't we do it, approve everybody on the first, that applied the first time, except for Mr. De Leon, as he's ready to talk to him. And then the parents on the second round, inviting the community members to still attend, but not as voting members.
Are you offering that as an amendment to your motion?
Yes.
Ms. Villalpando, do you support that amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Halsey?
I think Mr. De Leon's position in the district is,
The
As a-
assistant principal at Goodnight?
and does he also have responsibilities for some of the athletics?
I'm not sure of that. He does the facilities for Goodnight.
Yeah, I think it's inappropriate to remove him.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? We have a amended motion with a second. Okay. All in favor of the motion originally made by Ms. Hanson and then subsequently amended by Ms. Hanson? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, 4-2. Carries. Item 7.